Have you ever heard someone say that after 60? Family is everything? That saying is true, but not complete, because there are things that, if you neglect them, even the love of family cannot make up for. After 60, life is not only about children and grandchildren, it also depends on the pillars you build for yourself. These are the factors that determine whether you are truly independent, happy, and respected. Today, I will walk with you through 6 pillars even more important than family and why you must hold on to them. Before we dive into the details, if you'd like to continue with stories and meaningful lessons about aging, please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell. I believe you'll find many insights here that will help life after 60 become stronger and more meaningful. The first pillar, and also the most important foundation, is physical health. Your family can take care of you, but they cannot live for you in a weak body. When you lose your health, you also lose freedom, joy, and even self-respect. Physical health is not just about not being sick. It is about keeping your legs strong enough to step outside, your heart healthy enough to enjoy happiness, and your hands agile enough to embrace the people you love. I think of Mary, 67, in Ohio. After retiring, she spent all her time caring for her grandchildren, seeing it as her greatest joy. But she neglected herself. No more morning walks, no more yoga classes as before. Just a few years later, Mary developed chronic back pain and had to depend on her children even for the smallest things. She once told me in a conversation, "I love my children and grandchildren, but sometimes I feel like a burden, instead of being their source of strength." That story made me realize a truth. When we lose our health, even love turns into dependence. The lesson here is clear. After 60, you must treat caring for your body as your most important commitment. Spend at least 30 minutes a day staying active, eat in moderation, and don't see it as a luxury. Because if you don't protect your health, then no matter how much your family loves you, they cannot give you the independence you need. But a healthy body is not enough. Because there are people who may still walk quickly, still do housework with ease, but inside, they feel empty and sad. And that is why the second pillar, mental health, is just as important. Mental health is the ability to feel peace within, to maintain emotional balance, and to find meaning in life. Without it, you can live surrounded by family and yet still feel lonely, even at a crowded dinner table. James, 72, is a perfect example. He lives with his children and grandchildren in a home that is always noisy and full of laughter. But when I asked him if he felt happy, he sighed. "I feel like I'm slowly becoming invisible. Nobody really listens anymore." That story reminds us, when the spirit isn't nourished, a person will retreat inward and can easily fall into depression, even when surrounded by family. So, learn how to nourish your soul. Take a few minutes to meditate each morning and begin the day with peace. Write down your feelings in a journal, so you know you are still being heard, at least by yourself. And most importantly, find a true friend, not to have many relationships, but to have one safe place where you can be honest. A strong body helps you walk with steadiness, but a calm spirit helps you walk on with a smile. When these two pillars are built side by side, only then do you have the strength to move on to the next foundations, where independence, respect, and true happiness begin to take shape. When physical and mental health have become your foundation, there is another factor often overlooked by many after 60, but it quietly determines your sense of worth and respect. That is financial independence. Family may love you, but if all of your expenses depend entirely on your children, the balance in the relationship will slowly shift. You may begin to feel like you no longer have a voice, or worse, that you are being seen as a burden. Finances after 60 are no longer about chasing wealth, but about maintaining the ability to provide for your own needs, whether big or small, without needing permission or waiting on someone else. I think of Robert, 70, who lives in Florida. After retiring, he moved in with his son to save money. At first, everything was fine, but gradually, each time he wanted to buy even a small item, like a new pair of shoes, he found himself hesitating and having to ask his son. The growing hesitation made him feel stripped of his right to decide for himself. In one conversation, he said, "I have a family, but I am no longer myself." That was a sentence that made me think deeply. So what's the lesson here? Whether little or much, you need a source of financial independence. It could come from savings, a pension, or even a light part-time job. What matters is not the amount of money, but the feeling that you are still in control of your own life. When you have financial independence, you not only gain more freedom in your choices, but you also preserve respect from the very people who love you most. And alongside finances, the next pillar is less visible, but just as important, a sense of purpose. Because you may be healthy, mentally balanced, and financially stable, but if you wake up each morning without knowing what you are living for, joy will gradually fade away. Purpose after 60 doesn't need to be something grand. It can be as simple as tending a garden, writing memoirs, teaching grandchildren, or joining a community activity. I once met Linda, 74, who begins every morning by writing one page in a little book she calls My Memories. She told me, "I don't write to publish. I write to remind myself that I have lived, that I have loved, that I have made mistakes, and that I have learned so many things." That passion filled her with energy every day. Her eyes sparkled as she recounted old stories. Her family said they admired that vitality because it inspired them, too. The lesson for us is this: don't think of old age as the end. See it as a time when you have the chance to live true to your passions. A sense of purpose doesn't just give you motivation, it also makes those around you look at you with deeper respect and love. And when financial independence is combined with a clear purpose, you will feel a freedom and excitement that even family cannot give you, if you don't first build it for yourself. That is the perfect foundation to move toward the final two pillars, subtle elements that hold the power to sustain relationships and lifelong energy. After building health, mental balance, finances, and purpose, there is still one more thing often overlooked, yet it is the source of energy that nourishes everything else. That is social connections beyond the family. Many people think that at this age, family alone is enough. But the truth is, if life is confined within four walls and just a few familiar faces, it's easy to slip into loneliness and dependence. Friends, community, or a group that shares your interests can bring a sense of connection and renewal, offering joy that family sometimes cannot replace. I remember the story of James, 68, in California. After his wife passed, he lived a rather closed-off life, centering everything around his children and grandchildren. But one day, he joined the town's photography club. He shared that from the very moment he lifted his camera and took the first picture with the group, he felt like he rediscovered a part of himself he had forgotten. The meetups and small exhibitions made him feel like he was still growing, still being recognized. And the surprising thing was that his children and grandchildren were also happier, seeing him full of energy and with new stories to share each week. The lesson from James is clear. Expand your circle of relationships. A rich social network not only helps you live with more joy, but also serves as a protective shield for your spirit against loneliness and decline. And finally, the sixth pillar, the invisible thread that ties all the others together. Self-respect. This is something no one else can give you, only you can. If you don't respect your own value, your time, your health, and your emotions, then even the other pillars can easily crumble. Self-respect means knowing how to say no when necessary, knowing when to stop and rest, and setting boundaries, even with family. A powerful example is Carol, 72. For years, she tried to please everyone in her family, from daily childcare to carrying the weight of all the household chores. Eventually, she became exhausted and began to fall ill. It wasn't until her doctor warned her, "If you don't set limits for yourself, you won't have the health to accompany anyone," that she began to change. She started dividing up the housework and set aside one afternoon each week just for herself. to walk in the park or read. At first, her family was surprised, but over time, they learned to respect her time and her health more. The lesson here is this: self-respect is not selfish. It is the foundation that sustains every relationship, even with family. When you respect yourself, others will also look at you with greater respect. So we've walked through the 6 pillars: physical health, mental health, financial independence, purpose in life, social connections, and self-respect. These are not just nice-to-have ideas, but 6 essential milestones that allow anyone after 60 to live a life of freedom, independence, and meaning, even when family is not always the center of everything. Looking back, we've explored 6 pillars more important than family after 60. Maintaining physical health, nurturing mental well-being, building financial independence, sustaining a sense of purpose, expanding social connections, and, most importantly, self-respect. These are not just theories, but practical guides you can apply starting today by asking yourself, have I cared enough for my body? Am I keeping joy and peace in my mind? Do I know how to say no to protect my own worth? If you found these pillars helpful, leave a comment sharing which one you feel you need to strengthen most at this stage of life. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with those you believe also need to hear this message. Your support helps us continue spreading what truly matters. And if today we talked about the pillars that help you stand strong after 60, in the next video, I'll share a topic just as important: